Back in 2014, I had just moved from Freiburg to Bonn. I had 20 euros in my bank account and I was going through a nasty breakup. I had an interview that evening and everything hinged on that. I ended up going to that interview and getting my first job in Germany. Fast forward to today, I built a decent career here. I have close friends in my corner. I speak German and I have an apartment in a nice location. But this is not a success story. When I talk about this, I'm not telling you to follow my example. I'm also not saying that this will work out for everyone. I'm also not saying that all you need is persistence, luck, and hard work to make it in Germany. I know many of you watching my videos want to come to Germany because you believe it's better than where you are currently. But hear my story and make your plans to come here with a grain of salt. In this video, I'll share my journey with you about being a student here in Germany, having to find work after my studies ended, and what I experienced during that time. I'll also share my perspective on what was possible back then versus what's possible in today's Germany. Because what I went through was more than 10 years ago. So, first things first, you want to study in Germany and are searching for the right master program. Watch this other video of mine where I compare the two different master programs and universities I studied at in Germany and how to choose the best program for yourself and avoid choosing a program you'll end up regretting. With that out of the way, let's talk about the one thing everyone wants to know about in Germany: jobs. I talked to many people one to one who want advice about working in Germany. So I found my first job while I was still a student, and this is very common in Germany. While you're completing a master's degree, you work as a student assistant or a Werkstudent. Depending on your degree and field, the complexity of your work will vary. You'll also be paid a fixed hourly rate based on your level of education. I was working in North Rhine-Westphalia. I'm not sure if these laws differ from state to state, and this is the only state where I've worked as a student. Where I was perhaps lucky was that I didn't have an ordinary working student job. I had a great one that let me kickstart my career as a consultant. It was research heavy, and I was part of very interesting international projects. However, not all working student jobs are like this. Mine actually ended up adding to my career by the time I was applying for full time jobs. Many students come here, especially these days, and do other kinds of student jobs, part time work that doesn't add to their experience in a way that recruiters want to see. I will always have mixed feelings about this. I completely understand working to support yourself and taking on these student jobs. But often, just completing the master program is super hectic and stressful in Germany. And adding a stressful job on top of that hardly helps in these situations. Many students are focused on making money while they study, but I will stand on this hill that this is a bad idea for Germany. Surviving in Germany is like opting to live life on hard mode. There are long delays and waiting times for everything. Getting anything done, especially as a foreign student, gets you treated with mistrust and skepticism, and overall, you have to do everything alone. I've talked to many students in the middle of their studies who are very depressed and having a really hard time moving forward. So, what I'd recommend is having enough money to complete your program without resorting to part time work. All right, so back to what happened with me. I got this specific job because I already had work experience from back in Pakistan, which was exactly what they were looking for in this role. And to be honest, I was overqualified for the student job. What I've observed is that often a lot of interns and working students from non EU countries and non German backgrounds are overqualified for the student jobs they're doing. However, it ultimately helps when you're applying for jobs to show this local experience. Guys, the thing is, when I got this job, I was going through a breakup. I had very little money in my bank account. I borrowed money to pay a deposit for a room in a shared flat. And I can't tell you how awful that flat was, even though I shared it with two German women who were both working professionals. They didn't want their roommates to flush the toilet after 10 p.m. because it was loud. And I've heard that this is a real thing in German speaking countries, and I can testify. I don't want to tell you how awful it is to wake up and be the first to use the toilet. There was mold in the shower and shower curtain. The kitchen was filled to the brim with expired food. And both these women worked, and one of them was always at the office. I hardly saw her. I honestly still to this day do not know how they were living in this filth. I literally ran from that apartment after a month, which is how long it took me to find a new apartment. Honestly, this is the point I should have turned around and gone back to Pakistan, but I didn't. I switched two more apartments, both with like unhinged German landlords, until I found a reasonable place where I stayed with very nice people for quite a while. Guys, there are many stories about landlords in Germany, like they're on another level. From leaving nasty letters in your room, to picking through your trash, to outright abusing you, you run into all sorts of behavior. So many people I know, all foreign, got their deposits stolen once they left their apartments, even student apartments provided by their universities. I feel like this is a scam on a whole other level that needs to be addressed in its own video, but I don't want to make that. Many people come to Germany with the expectation of finding fairness and a bare minimum level of honesty and find neither. The point is, come to Germany if you want to, but don't expect people here to be more honest than wherever you're coming from. Wherever there's money involved, protect yourself and be prepared for opportunistic and exploitative people who will try to cheat you. And get a lot of insurance if you can afford it. Moving back to my career story. So, yes, it was a great job, a very good opportunity. And I had the skills and built the skills to get to the next level. I worked hard and was also paid very little for a very long time. But I kept building my network. I got increasingly complex projects and ultimately pivoted to tech, where back then there were a lot more jobs. Many companies were operating solely in English. I understand this is not the scene anymore, but it wasn't as hard as it is today to transition into these jobs. That said, I did learn German and I kept learning new things, including getting certifications. Now, if you watch my other video, you know I talk about how the system here is really fixated on certificates. So, as long as you're here and want to live and work here, keep getting those certificates. Get your German language certificate, project management, digital marketing, AI, whatever. Just get those, and one of them will eventually open a door for you. Like it'll be so niche that it'll eventually open a door for you. Funny story about certification. So I got my professional Scrum Master certification a few years ago. And while I was preparing for my professional agile leadership certification a year after, I found a book on Amazon that was teaching how to pass these PSM and PAL exams. And the author of this book turned out to be a German guy who had literally all of the scrum.org certifications. And interestingly, when I was applying for jobs outside Germany, nobody really cared about these Scrum certifications. Like people didn't even know what these are. In terms of what all of this taught me, well, by the time I was 4 years working for a German company with various international partners, I had learned resilience. I had transformed myself multiple times. I had lost and gained projects. I sat through dozens of interviews. Over the years, I sat through two corporate almost bankruptcies, and I heard all kinds of comments about my origin. And I'll make another video about that. But at one point, nothing surprised or bothered me anymore. Would I do it again? I'm not sure. Maybe if I had no other choice. The thing is, and I'll share it in my other videos about Germany, things aren't really as hard as Germany makes them. There's something about this country that doesn't want problems to be solved, that adds on layers of complications that aren't really necessary. And if you point it out, you are the problem. I mean, if you see an easier way to do things and tell someone who's determined to do it the hard way, you're seen as the problem. The system doesn't want you to point this out. It's like stay silent and don't rock the boat, just like a toxic relationship. To sum it up, can you be successful in Germany starting from nothing or very little? My verdict, most likely no. You won't really be successful. You'll be surviving. You'll keep hoping that things will change, but there will be very little concrete support or opportunities to actually help you change things. Looking back at my life, would I choose Germany again if I had other options, knowing what I know now? No, I wouldn't come here. I would not choose Germany. Anyway, like I said, I'm now leaving Germany and looking forward to the next phase of my life. I'm sharing retrospectives in my Germany series. I'm going to be very honest. A lot of these videos are unscripted, maybe all of them. Maybe you're on your way here. Maybe you're already in Germany, or maybe you want to be here. I hope these videos can help give you a perspective you haven't heard anywhere else. And stay tuned for my next video.